Would not the decriminalisation of drugs allow the government some form of quality control to ensure that this kind of thing, heroin overdoses, etc., doesn't happen because the drugs would be an acceptable standard and at least they would be dispensed by somebody other than a criminal, which would actually avoid a lot of people getting involved in the criminal justice system in the first place?
Just from Hunt, would you like to pick up that point?
I don't agree with the decriminalisation point. I welcome this report. I think it's a really substantial and significant piece of work. Like Caroline, I want evidence-based policy making, and if what we look at today focuses on the health-based approach rather than the custodial approach, well, that's a really significant piece of research. But I'd say two things. First of all, we have to think very carefully about this language of legalisation and decriminalisation, particularly in terms of cannabis, because what is on the streets today in terms of the intensity and power of some of the cannabis out there and how it leads to psychotic episodes, mental health incidents, is a really, really damaging and dangerous situation. And it's a long way from the sort of world of the Camberwell carrot and Withnail and I and a sort of rather gentle view of what these drugs were about. Actually, these are really dangerous drugs, and if the report leads us in that direction, that worries me. Secondly, on the custodial issue, the real problem in terms of the sending people to prison is then what happens to them in prison. And the amount of drugs in prison is terrifying, and people are coming out with even greater habits out of prison and not dealing with it effectively. So this is an interesting piece of work. I think Caroline's right. We then begin to reflect on it. I would also say what we did in government under the last Labour government was also to look at the treatment side of it and really invest in that side of it, and that has been stripped away in the last few years.